Hello and thank you for joining me. My name is Mike Roberts and welcome to this snippet from the Song of Solomon. This is our 25th snippet. We're making our way verse by verse through the book of the Song of Solomon. We're watching a fantastic story unfold. It's a romance between King Solomon, who represents Jesus in this story, and his bride, the Shulamite maid. And as we've discussed, she represents you and me. So we're seeing the romance unfold that is symbolic of our relationship with Jesus. And we're approaching the end of chapter 2. And in the last 3 videos, if you were able to join me, we've talked about verse 15. We took our time and really mined some valuable truths out of chapter 2, verse 15. And in this video, I want to look at chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. And what these verses do is they reveal to us some wonderful things that begin to happen in our lives as we walk with Jesus in an intimate and personal relationship. So in these verses, the Shulamite maid is talking, and this again is symbolic of our heart for Jesus. So this is what happens in our heart as we walk with him. She says, she's talking about him, and she says, "My beloved is mine, and I am his. He pastures his flock among the lilies." And I want to stop right there and repeat that phrase. He pastures his flock among the lilies. And that's really important for us because if we think back to chapter 1 and we go to chapter 1, verse 7, she's talking to him. She's having kind of a bad day at this point, and she asks him a question. She says, "Tell me, O you whom my soul loves, where do you pasture your flock?" So towards the beginning of the story, she didn't know where he pastured his flock. She was trying to find him. She wanted to be with him. She was pursuing him, but she didn't know where he pastured his flock. Well, now, as we approach the end of chapter 2, she can say from experience where he pastures his flock. So she says here, "My beloved is mine, and I am his. He pastures his flock among the lilies." And so she can say from experience where that place is because she has been there. He's taken her to that place. So as she pursued him and her desire was for him, we know his desire was for her. And the Bible says that everyone who asks will receive, everyone who seeks will find, and everyone that knocks, the door will be open. So she was in pursuit of him, and now she can say from personal experience where he pastures his flocks because she's been there. So our relationship with Jesus is that way. The things that we begin to pursue, he brings those things to us. We find more of him as we're hungry for him. As we pursue that relationship with him, we get him. And Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled." And as we pursue Jesus, the Bible says you draw near to him, he draws near to you. So as we pursue him, we find him. And our relationship with him is deepened every step of the way. And in verse 17, she says, "Until the cool of the day, when the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved." She's asking him, "Turn to me, come to me, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of Bether." And we saw in a previous snippet earlier in chapter 2, she compared him. In verse 8, she says, "Listen, my beloved, behold, he is coming, climbing on the mountains, leaping on the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag." So here she uses a very similar analogy, some of the same terminology, and she asks him, she pleads with him, "Turn, come to me, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of Bether." And those mountains, what that means is it's the mountains of spices, but also it's symbolic of the very intimate part of her body, her breasts. So she actually was inviting him into the most intimate part of her body. She was inviting him to an intimate encounter with her because she was so passionate for him. She wanted to be with him, be in his presence, and she was asking him to come and be with her in a very intimate way. So as our relationship with Jesus progresses, as we walk with him, we pursue him, and we begin to respond to his pursuit of us, we begin to know experientially the answer to the questions we had previously. Where do you pasture your flock? Well, now I know. Now I've been there, and I can see that because I've been intimate with you. I've walked with you in a close, personal, intimate relationship. And as that happens, our desire for him just grows. We begin to invite him into an open and transparent relationship with no secrets. There's nothing between us. We invite him to the most intimate places in our lives and in who we are, and he comes in. And we see that in these last two verses of chapter 2, which take us to the start of chapter 3. But we're seeing this relationship deepen and become so much more meaningful and so much more real as she discovers from experience how great and how good Jesus really is.